discussion today, we'll explore Swagata's insights into cancer journalism and the unique challenges faced by women journalists in this field.
Why cancer journalism and why to talk about cancer journalism, especially in India. Most people think cancer affects older people. In other countries, it does affect older people. But in India, the productive population is the one which is affected by cancer. So these are the common topics where, cancer stories happen. One is,
in your experience, you think writing about cancer attracts good publications and grants? Welcome everyone to this special webinar. Today we are honored to have with us Swagata Yadavar. And Swagata is a distinguished health journalist based in Ahmedabad. And with over a decade of experience, Swagata has dedicated her career to uncovering critical issues in healthcare, particularly focusing on women's health and cancer. And Swagata has also garnered numerous accolades for her impactful reporting, including the prestigious European School of Oncology's Cancer Journalism Award and the June E. Bidler Prize from the American Association for Cancer Research. And her work has not only highlighted the gaps in cancer care in India, but has also brought attention to the broader implications of gender and health policies. So in our discussion today, we'll explore Swagata's insights into cancer journalism and the unique challenges faced by women journalists in this field, and also the importance of amplifying women's voices in cancer journalism and overall health reporting. So we encourage all participants to actively engage, share your thoughts, and ask questions as we delve into this critical topic. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And let's welcome Swagata Yadavar. Swagata, over to you.
Thank you so much, Alia, and Women's Freelancers Collective for having me, and it is my great pleasure to share my insights. Though I was confused when Alia first called me, I was like, what will I talk about this? But it's given me a good chance to reflect about some certain things, and it also, it's good to revise. It's good to be a student. So the whole process of talking about it also helped me to talk, think about it as a once we do stories, we do not often know that this is something that I am specializing in till somebody else points it out. And I think this is what happened. Like Alia was the one who said, like, you should talk about cancer journalism. So it is my great pleasure. And I'll now start sharing my screen. Yes. Can everybody see?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. This is like a brief primer to what is cancer journalism, so that all of us are not overwhelmed just by listening about this topic. It's pretty simple, and I'll just give a brief overview of what we are going to discuss today. I'll go with basics of cancer journalism first. Then I'll talk about some of my work to give a sense of what kind of stories can be done in cancer journalism. Then we can talk about resources, where to find research, where to get data from. Then we can talk about ethical considerations, some story ideas. It's wider themes more than ideas per se. And then we can have question and answers at the end. I'll also be sharing this presentation, so the links in this might work later. So starting with why cancer journalism and why to talk about cancer journalism, especially in India. So the biggest reason why we need to care about cancer journalism is, as our population is aging, more and more people will have non-communicable diseases like diabetes, cancer, heart disease. And out of these, cancer treatment is one which is long, which is expensive. It affects families for multiple generations. Sometimes it affects us emotionally, physically, financially. So this is one disease that leaves long scars on the families. Again, with cancer, there are many people who still do not take the name cancer and say C or something like that, which they will allude to the disease. There is still so much of stigma about it that nobody talks about it. So it still has a lot of stigma in our society. There are a lot of taboos related to screening. For example, cervical screening is something that most women are still not comfortable with. So this is why cancer journalism needs more people to, spend time with it and talk about it. Again, cancer is also very complex, and there are so many aspects to it that, even if you do one story once in a while, there are still 3 4 more stories that can be done about a single topic. So that's why I think that, there is a lot of scope for many of us to think about it. And Indian healthcare system, especially the public sector, it's very difficult for students, for patients to navigate. They do not know where to do it. Anything from diagnosis takes, many studies have shown that it takes up to 3 months on an average for a single family to come to a diagnosis. And for that, they might go from their general GP to a specialist to another person before they even know it is cancer. And then finding a place to treat this cancer is another, levels of hurdles, especially if you do not have coverage. Your health insurance gets over, your corporate insurance is not enough. So this is a problem that needs a lot of advocacy. We need to talk about it so that we improve the access, treatment, affordability of the disease. So that is why I feel that there is a lot of scope, and why we must at least think about it, even if we do not directly jump into cancer journalism. Now coming to basics, I thought we could also do a little bit of basics of cancer, just so that we know what the terms to use. So cancer occurs when the regular cells, they mutate. These cells start growing abnormally. They are not destroyed by the immune system, and they go travel from one part of the body to another. And once they travel, they also cause changes in other parts of the body. In this way, cancer spreads, and that is the whole phenomena of what is cancer. And about types, so one classification of cancer is about the tissue that it affects, for example the breast, prostate, a single tissue, and also by the genotype. For example, HER2 positive breast cancer, that is how you name these cancers. Staging is another way of describing the type of cancer, and I mean the stage of cancer. So this shows how far the cancer cells have spread. So if this cancer is detected very early, it's called a stage 0. Stage 1 is when it is just restricted to that particular organ, that tissue. Stage 2 is where it is surrounding that organ, and stage 4 is when it is spread across the body. But many of us think that stage also means stage 4 is the terminal case, but that's not always true. People have there are cases where you can live after many years in stage 4 if your cancer is not, it's not spreading after a point, and it has been controlled by medications. So stage just means the spread of the disease. It doesn't mean that this is terminal cancer. So that is a common misnomer. Again, in some parts of cancer, let's talk about types. So there are more than 200 types. Cancer may seem like a single word, but there are so many different types. It's called as a group of disease. It's not a single disease. And the major types are carcinomas, sarcomas, lymphomas, leukemias, and melanomas. So carcinomas are the things that affect your tissue, like breast cancer, prostate. Those are common carcinomas. Sarcomas affect the tissues. Lymphomas is when the cancer has affected the lymph nodes. Leukemias are usually blood cancers. Melanoma are where it affects the melanin on the skin. So these are just brief descriptions of the cancer, just to give an idea that these are very, very different groups. And one cancer will not look or seem or will have the same treatment as another type of cancer. Talking about treatment, cancer has like all different cancers have different modes of treatment. Surgery, chemotherapy, radiation are the most common stages of treatment. Many times, for example, in breast, the surgeons will try to remove the affected part, the tumor, as well as the tissue, then go for chemotherapy, and then the radiation, then go for radiation and then chemotherapy. So this differs from cancer to cancer. Then we have immunotherapy, where immune system is then used by like specific drugs to fight the cancers. There is hormone replacement therapy, which works for certain cancers which are linked to hormones, like Herceptin positive breast cancer. Targeted drug therapy is depends on the genomics of the particular cancer. If there is a drug for it, the doctors give that specific drug so that your whole body doesn't get impacted by chemotherapy. Then we have clinical trials, where more experimental drugs are given to cancer patients. And there is palliative care, where your quality of life is they try to improve your quality of life, reduce your pain, so that you have a better quality of life. Now I'll just give a brief of what I have done. So like I was telling before, I was reporting and writing on health, but I did not think about cancer specifically as a topic too much. Because I worked in Mumbai, and Tata Memorial, which is the biggest cancer hospital in India, was close by. So I was very used to going there and speaking to doctors there and reporting on it. But after I did a long form project on cancer based on Tata Memorial Hospital, especially the patients who were living in the footpath outside the hospital, that is when I began my long association with it. So that was kind of a turning point for me, where I got a chance to talk to patients, understand where they're coming from. So I can just click on a few stories to give an idea. So this was done in 17. So I met this patient. So what we did in India Spend is we did a data project. We spoke to all the patients on the footpath, and I and an intern, we had like some questionnaire, which was like long questionnaire, and we went to each patient, asked them their names, what kind of cancer they are, where have they come from, how long were they in the city, what kind of treatment, and we just wanted to know what brought them to Mumbai. Why aren't they getting the treatment where they are from? And why are they choosing to live on the footpath? And this kind of gave us an idea of the multiple problems that patients face. Patients have come many months ago, but they choose to stay on the footpath because they have run out of all money. Once they came, they had some money and they lived in some small hotel, a budget hotel, or they stayed with relatives, or they stayed in dharamshalas. But soon they ran out of money, even for the substantially subsidized stay. So the patients had almost nothing. They had already sold their land and come all the way here. So we then realized that this problem is because they've come out of all options, and they find staying closest to the hospital is the easiest way to first find. There is a huge queue, and the OPD of Tata Memorial, like all public hospitals, is completely crowded. So they have a good chance of reaching the hospital in time. Also, there are many charitable organizations that used to uh, they would give them food, give them some kind of help. So that is why these patients found it most comfortable to stay on the pavement. But as we know, monsoon is a big problem in Mumbai. And these patients with very little, I mean, their immunity is already affected, and they still live in this kind of without shelter, with very little cleanliness, with no toilet facilities. So it's quite shocking to find patients doing that. But it also talks about the desperation of patients, that by the time they've come to Tata, they've run out of everything. And not just them, there is usually in India, there are two relatives, one or two, mostly that you need two patients, attendants with each patient, who do the running around for you, bring you medicines, can stand in the queue for you, get you blood when you are admitted. So not just one person who is the patient. There are two more members in the family who are equally affected by cancer, who are already taken loans, who have left their jobs, have left their education to come to Mumbai and to be part of this. So this was the story that also the whole series won those two awards that I have gotten. And it also we got a lot of primary data from the patients we surveyed, and there's also a lot of data that we used. So in this particular case, I'm talking about this young man who came all the way like from 5,000 kilometers far. He was from both Bihar. He had to come to Mumbai, and he had oral cancer which affected his entire mouth, and he had never used tobacco. So it was like we most people think cancer affects older people. In other countries it does affect older people, but in India the productive population is the one which is affected by cancer. So it also highlights the problem of how it is different for India, because our population is young. So even our cancers affect when you are in the most young, in your youth. And yeah, so there were multiple issues that while reporting I realized about cancer. And then we wrote about the survey and the findings of the survey. And later on, after doing the story, I also got a chance to keep reporting for on cancer, because one of the editors who gave me the award also really liked the kind of stories we did from India, and then she started commissioning me. So a lot of my stories are for Cancer World. And this is one website where many of us can pitch our stories. Cancer World, it is published by SPCC, and they take both short stories as well as long stories. So these are some of my short stories that I did for them. About like this is about Lung Connect, which is a support group which is run from Tata Memorial. And they started during the pandemic because patients had already uh, they couldn't come back to the city as often as before. And this was a chance for them to listen to each other. They were having calls with the doctors, and it helped them to deal with the side effects. It helped them to just know that another person is also having the same problems as them. They couriered medicines from Mumbai to different parts where the Lung Connect patients were located. So stories like this is what I worked for Cancer World. This is about smokeless tobacco and how policy. So the reason why I'm sharing these stories is the kind of stories that can do well. Alia, you have something.
Yes, Swagat. I'm just wanting to ask you a quick question. Like, you talked about all the series for the that you have done for India Spend. So I'm curious to know, like, did data journalism help you to have to have more profound understanding of the complex issue? Like, did analyzing data also help journalists to provide, context and clarity to such important topics?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, data gives you so when you want to know what is the topic and what is in cancer, how do I report? So one way to look at it is like you will look at the cancers which are most common in India. Then you will look at, so I can maybe go to the some sources. And like this is the fact sheet. This is International Agency for Research on Cancer, and this is the number part which will give us an idea of which cancers are important for us to report on. So this also tells you this is 1.4 million new cases of cancer are detected in India. It causes 900,000 deaths. The most common cancers. For example, this gives us an idea that in India, breast cancer is the most common cancer in women. In men, it is the lung. It's, I think, oral cavity. Oral cancer is the most common cancers in men. And so data journalism helps us to pinpoint the problem. It talks about it helps us find and also our arguments, because we will not know. We might meet one cancer patient and then think their story is the most moving, but we need to support it with figures to make a more stronger case of what we are saying. So in our story, uh, we use the survey data to find things like how much money are they spending. They're already spending, and this was in 2017, so that time they were spending 76,000 on treatment even before coming to Mumbai, and most of them had spent more than 1 lakh. 25% had spent. They had gone to a private center, and 60 had gone to a private center, and then 50 had gone to. So data gives you a very good point of starting. It also helps you make your argument strong in your story, and it makes an impact. The reason why this story worked, according to me also, is because it was heavily based on data. It was not just 2 3 stories that we find and we try to make a composite of, this is the plight. But when there are numbers, it just adds, and it gives you perspective that this is a problem of many thousands or millions also. So it really helps. And primary data like this is not often something that we can find. It's excellent if we can do the survey, but this is not usually what we do. We use data which is already available. NFHS has data on screening of cervical screening, on breast screening. So NFHS has some part of data. Some data you can get from IRC website. So things like these resources, which I will get back to, are good to make your argument stronger, in my opinion. Uh, then I did did this series on gender and cancer. This was supported by Pulitzer and it was published by Behan Books. So my idea was that cancer affects both men and women.
ടൈം ആയിട്ടില്ല കേട്ടോ 3 o'clock ആവണ്ട.
Can we mute?
എല്ലാവരും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ചോദിച്ചോക്കെ.
Guys, can you please mute?
Oh.
I think there's some background noise. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
So the idea was that cancer affects both men and women. And if you look at, just disease per se, their survival rates are also almost the same, like if a man has or a female has. But the experience of how cancer affects men and women, it differs greatly, especially in a patriarchal society like India. A woman having cancer and a man having cancer, they're received very differently by the families. So that was the starting point of why I wanted to do a series on this. And again, data helped me pinpoint on what are the topics I wanted to do. So cervical cancer, it's not the largest, breast is the first one, but cervical cancer is something that I thought was extremely neglected. And why it is neglected is because it affects the strata of the society that is poor, illiterate, and they do not have the knowledge, or they don't even have the great support that some cancers like breast cancer has great awareness in urban cities. Women will talk about it. They might find some support, but something like a cervical cancer, you will not have anybody talk about it, and it is something that is completely preventable. So that is why I focused on cervical cancer as the first story. And the sad part, it is caused by an infection. It grows slowly, so there are like, it takes about 20 years for the cancer to, for the lesion to turn cancerous. And because India lacks the screening, we are not detecting them on time, and by the time they are coming, they're already in stage 4. and they die within 6 months. So the things that I saw in the public hospital, I had not seen cervical cancer coverage like this before. I mean, though we know about the problem, we do talk about the vaccine, but this strata of society sadly gets neglected because they have no representation. So that's why I felt like first story has to be about cervical cancer. And my point in the story is also that there is no political will to get the vaccine to girls because nobody cares about women. It's not a topic that neither do the voters want, neither do the politicians care about it. They know they'll not lose an election because of health issues, but this is a reason that no woman should die of cervical cancer. And it is absolutely difficult to find a cervical cancer patient in Australia, in America, in Western countries. So why should our women die of this? It's unacceptable. My other story was about agency, lack of finances. While women do not have the agency in their own households to even, go to a doctor, they usually need somebody to accompany them. Then I mean, we talk about issues which are sociological and familial. Why women are sort of, they reach doctors late, and even after they have diagnosis, they have a lot of hesitation to seek treatment because they think कि अब क्या है, मेरे वजह से पूरी family will suffer. They think about the expenses. So I met Amrita Singh in a dharamshala in Mumbai, and the story is about her. She was married off when she was just 14. She got, like, she was pregnant with her first child at 18 or 19. So as a woman, she was like less educated, the eldest of her family, so got married early, moved to a new city, did not know much, stayed at home. And when pandemic happened, that's when her first symptoms came. So she didn't have enough wherewithal. She couldn't get to a better center at time. Well, she went to Rajiv Gandhi Center in Delhi, which is a good institute, but they didn't have chemotherapy drugs, and the family was already struggling, so she couldn't get the drugs on time, and her cancer progressed. So by the time she got to Mumbai again, it was stage 3. And sadly, like, while I was reporting the story, she passed away. So her story was very poignant and it was very strong because she looks like this. It is very difficult to say that she has cancer based on just when I met her. She was full of life. And it was difficult to see her at 34 already, in her last stage, and then dying of cancer. It was very difficult to talk about it, to then be in touch with her son. But this is why her story made a lot of impact, and we could actually raise some funds for her family to, because they already had so much debt, to take care of the debt. And the last story we did was about Tulsi, who is like, she breaks some myths about, all the helpless women. So this was one woman who had she had left her husband. She was also alone, a single mother, but she had the gumption to come, and she was in Mumbai and she took care of her treatment all alone. She learned the language. She understood the disease. She's now cancer free. So there were these two examples of women and circumstances. And the reason I wrote about cancer is women are usually the caregivers in a family. So they are the ones who take care of the family members when they are sick. So what happens if the woman is sick? That was my question. And we found that when the woman is sick, she hears a lot of taunts from her husband, maybe her mother-in-law, maybe from her children, ki ye kya tum ye nahi kar sakti. So other, apart from the fact that she has the disease and they have to go to the hospital, she's not able to do her caregiving duties at home. So not just her own guilt, there is a lot of verbal abuse that women face at home. And not everything, you will not find data for these things. For these things, you need to talk to women, and a lot of women, and nobody's even going to talk about कि मेरे घर वाले मुझसे ऐसे बात करते हैं. It's something that happens because women everywhere. So you slowly get friendly and then talk about different things. Even with Tulsi, she had a brother who had come with her to Mumbai, but he started taunting her कि तूने तो मेरा बर्बाद कर दिया, तेरे वजह से मुझे आना पड़ रहा है. And she heard him once or twice and sent him back कि मुझे नहीं चाहिए. I don't want anybody to do this favor on me, and I'm strong enough to do this alone. Because women with all the caregiving duties then have to be alone in a strange city to undergo the treatment is something that is sad, but is the reality of most women, especially with no finances like Tulsi. So this story was about, again, like Shakuntala Yadav, I talk about her. Her mother has cancer, and her cancer also had come second time and had spread. So Shakuntala also had to give up her own dreams, her own education to take care of her mother. So the ones who take care are also women. When it happens to women, it's also difficult. So we are talking about many of these issues in this third and last story in the series. So this was just an overview of the kind of stories that I have done and the kind of angles that I have found after talking to patients. It's not something that and one of the challenges of doing the series was it's quite abstract. This kind of a topic, you might have an idea, but to know where to go, how to find the case study, how to find the angles that you think will work, that was the challenge. And like I said, it only comes after you speak to a lot of people and try to, gain their trust, and that's when they um, kind of reveal themselves, and that can be used in a story. So that is the shorter stories I've already kind of shown, which I've written for Cancer World. Are there any doubts at this point? We can talk about them. Pooja has a doubt.
Hi, Swagata.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good.
So, Swagata, so I have a very basic question. I went into the emergency, when there was an adenovirus outbreak here in West Bengal and children were dying. So I went there. So, you know, I kind of got shouted at, you can't just come in here and talk to patients. And I know we need to do that, right? For reporting, like you did. But probably it was easier for you because you were talking to people in the footpath when you were doing that. But when you're going into a hospital compound and talking to patients or in the emergency ward, how do you navigate these type of situations?
I think this is the most, I think all of us have faced whenever we go to a public hospital, and it is challenging, like you said. But we also need to be careful because some diseases are infectious. So those concerns are also legitimate, that we cannot go in a ward where there is a outbreak. So those things do matter, and I agree with it. But many times, like cancer patient, it's not like it's infectious disease. You need to talk to patients. So rather than going in the hospital, and the permission to talk to the patients in the hospital is also very difficult to get because of privacy issues, because of multiple issues. There is security risk and confidentiality risk. Also, the fact that it is very crowded, very difficult for them to manage. Most hospitals will not agree. Though to take photos, I always had to go to the dean, to the the medical officer and take permission. So whenever I can, because the moment you take a photo, there are 10 security guards will run after you and ask you to leave. So it is a problem. So what I did for the cancer story is I went to the Dharamshala where they were staying, and I spoke to the manager of the Dharamshala, and he was agreeing to let me talk. And in the story that I went to Raipur for, I spoke to the doctor, the dean of the hospital much before, and she agreed to let me interview patients, doctors, everyone in the hospital. So that gave me an idea. But for very big hospitals like AIMS, it's very tough to get the permission, and it's very difficult to report directly from the hospital. But in the compound, maybe you can ask them to come out and talk to you. Maybe you can do it more, when you have already some contacts with some hospital, with some doctors in the hospital, you can take their help to enter the hospital and do uh, small interviews without getting detected, but then later ask them to come out so that you can properly photograph them, record them. That is my suggestion. That is what I have done.
Thank you.
Anyone else, or should we continue?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think you can continue, and if someone has any question, then they can, ask.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I've just identified some common story types that, these are the common topics where, cancer stories happen. One is about new therapy or new drug that works. This usually happens in the West because those are the companies that, they work. That's where it comes from. So new therapy and drugs are usually already covered in the West and are more of news stories. General overview, like talking about cervical cancer, is those are the stories also that need some coverage because they are maybe neglected, or there might be like a breast cancer story on breast cancer awareness days. So general overview kind of stories. Then it's about patient experience. We can interview patients and talk about the particular experience of going through it, like being young, having cancer, having lung cancer as a non-smoker. That is also a story because we can then talk about air pollution and other causes of cancer. So patient experience can be kind of story. Mental health impact of cancer can be another story. That could be both for the patient as well as the family member. How does, many of them have to go through mastectomy, the removal of their breast for, and how does it impact them? Many of them become infertile due to the chemotherapy. So how does it impact them in their lives? That could be stories. Implementation issues of Ayushman Bharat, though it covers cancers, there are a lot of issues with disbursement of funds. Why do patients have to go from this center to that center? Lack of radiotherapy. Those can be some stories. Financial toxicity is a big problem with cancer. It does cause a lot of patients to take big loans and impacts their financial health. So that can be some stories. Support structures, we can talk about support groups in that area and how they found support. And prevention, of course, is a good story to pursue because we need to know certain, like tobacco, no matter how much we talk about tobacco, it's still something that is so normalized in Indian societies. So we need to keep talking about, like, vapes. People have started doing vapes and don't know that even that they have similar risk as cigarettes. E-cigarettes are also bad. So keep talking about tobacco because in India, again, 80% of cancers today are caused by tobacco, despite all the awareness that it is there. So we need to keep talking about these particular stories. Now talking about resources. Here are some of the resources I found actually yesterday only, making sense of cancer. So this was a very useful, and this is written by the same team that I work with, Anna Wagstaff, and European School of Oncology. Their team has made, and it covers a lot of important points about what is the kind of evidence to look at, what kind of language to use, what kind of stories to do, how to evaluate clinical trials. So this could be a good resource to maybe refer when doing some cancer stories. And it's written from the point of view of media, so it has very practical advice. So this was, then I found something on writing about cancer guidelines and the language to be used. Avoid battle. I also find that this language has been constantly used to say that she fought her battle with cancer, and often that also means that you can lose this battle, so you've not fought valiantly enough. So this language also belittles the entire experience of cancer. So some of the media guides are here. Then there is this WebMD's understanding cancer, the very basics of what happens to cells, how does it affect. It gives you some idea before we start writing. A lot of research in the Lancet that we can use for our stories. Lancet Oncology. Then there's also one for Asia, Lancet Southeast Asia, which has data from India or from Asia that we can use. Nature Science and other science journals will also carry a lot of stories. Then there is American Society for Clinical Oncology. They also have a very big conference, and papers presented there can be used for our stories. Cancer Atlas is also something that gives a lot of data about burden of cancer in India, in Asia. And I have referred to it before, so like an overview, and then you can go and find resources. This was the fact sheet that I'd opened. This is by International Agency for Research on Cancer, WHO's data. It's very useful for us because it is country specific, it is gender, and it's disaggregated for all of this. Is very important for us to get a number that this is the cancer that impacts so many people. That really helps the story to get that perspective in why is this important. This visual resource is something I found. That sometimes we need certain photos and it's difficult to find photos. And National Cancer Institute, which is America's institute, they give a lot of photos for free. It's in the public domain, so maybe those images can be used. Local resources like Tata Memorial Hospital, and getting in touch with them will help get you access to the doctors who do. And a lot of original research happens in Tata Memorial, and so does it happen in many Indian institutes. So we can get you can directly get in touch with the hospitals, talk to them, and gain this kind of information. And it is important to report from Indian perspectives, because the pharmaceutical companies are obsessed about these drugs that are extremely expensive and are not available in India, and might just increase your survival by few weeks compared to the conventional drugs. So we need to talk about affordability. We need to talk about our population, and that is the kind of research that happens in India, thankfully. So that is why I think a lot of research, new studies can come from your own institute, cancer institutes, and your own. And one way to go about it is the National Cancer Grid, which I mentioned. There are certain awards for cancer journalism, which can also be another incentive to do stories. So American Association for Cancer Research gives an award of $5,000, and they have multiple categories. They have a magazine, a television feature, and there's a web category. So there are a lot of scope for a lot of stories that can be sent for this particular award. There's also Cancer Journalism Award by European School of Oncology. This is not I think every year, but once in maybe 2-3 years. So these are two awards. This is specifically for cancer journalism. And if you've written some story, it is a good idea to send it for these two awards. Talking about ethical considerations, I think there's nothing specific for cancer that one needs to know. The same amount of sensitivity is required as whenever you're interviewing any other patient. You have to ask for consent for using their names, their photos. And what I have experienced in cancer is that they might say yes, and later on they might say no, because ghar pe baat ki, and they got to hear ki no, tumhari beti se. So this case study that I had interviewed and been talking for many weeks suddenly backed out because she was told that tumhari beti se koi shadi nahi karega if people get to know that you have cancer. So still stigma is something that is prevalent. So even after getting consent, and sometimes even that form that they sign, they might back out, and we have to respect their wishes. So I couldn't use her name or anonymize her also, despite the fact we had spoken. Given the nature of the disease, it's a good idea to note down the medical history of the patient and go through it with the oncologist or maybe another doctor, just to understand what all happened. And because the patients usually do not know what stage are they, what are the drugs that they've been taking. So sometimes just taking a photo of their medical history and then going through it with a doctor helps. Double check your facts, explain difficult words, just to, because cancer is so much of technical gyan that you need to make it easy for people to understand. And one problematic thing is, like, many press releases will say, that person has been cured, this is a miraculous drug, this is a wonder drug. But many of times it's just this hype, and it's very difficult because cancer patients uh, get hopeful after reading this news, and it might just be something that is no fact fully. I mean, it's not backed by facts, it's not true. So we cannot write things just off the cuff. And this particular case study about Tata Institutes claiming a new drug, this actually happened. The press release was sent by the hospital about how this drug prevents relapse, and later on the current director had to explain, like, this is not the way. The whole misrepresentation which was done by the hospital itself caused a lot of chaos. Lot of patients thought that this drug will save them, and that is not at all what the drug was for. So we also have to, sometimes doctors get so hyped up and try to sell us things. We have to kind of keep uh, being skeptical and asking for more evidence to back these claims. Some story ideas that I thought that there is some scope to work on is childhood cancer survivors. Many patients who had cancer as children survive. So what is a life after cancer? So stigma, talking about that. Then again, quick questions about who will marry them, questions about their education, question about fertility can be covered. Fertility is another story idea. Then financial resources for cancer patients, I thought, could be a story. Air pollution and its link to cancer is a burning topic. Ayushman Bharat implementations gap, cancer drugs. We can talk about cancer drugs because even though insurance covers the treatment, sometimes those drugs need to be taken for much after they're treated. So these drugs are expensive. So how do patients cope with very expensive drugs? So there are a lot of story ideas that one can look at. And this is it from me. I hope you found this whole presentation interesting. Please let me know if there are any doubts.
Thank you so much, Swagata. Swagata, I have a quick question. I know you have shared all the resources that can be helpful for us, or where we can also pitch our stories. So, but generally, I want to ask you, like, in your experience, do you think writing about cancer attracts good publications and grants?
I mean, I think this topic is what is something that, maybe matters more than anything else.
Yes.
Of course, cancer does impact, like, because it's a bigger problem in Western countries, they
Yeah.
are more sensitive to cancer, but also we need to find a sharp angle on what we want to achieve.
No,
And
yeah, as you just said, that after having insights from many health communication experts, like, it really, in India, if we see, like, health media coverage often influences the overall researching funding opportunities. So it's very important for us as journalists to be sensitive and to be aware of how to do what we do, like what kind of, as you said, angles we should choose or where to go. Like, I'm talking about overall India, not just Bombay or Delhi. So, if do you think that is something other than not just like taking it as a full time kind of beat reporting, but
Hmm.
generally, thinking about it. I mean, that is the essence of this today's webinar. Where, as you said, this topic is so critical and important, it is worth doing. But yeah, we all know, like, if journalists would struggle with the publications, or then they leave it halfway. At the end of the day, we need whatever we want to report to get it published. That is the
Yeah.
that's the main thing. Yeah.
And like I said, there are certain publications like Cancer World is one that is specific about cancer. So there are certain niche publications that are always interested in cancer, but I'm sure that even global health publications are interested if we know the kind of pitch that we are looking at. If we are talking about, say, Indians, why do young Indians have cancer, and then talk about the problems that young Indians face, because you already are just starting your career and you have a big problem like cancer. How are you coping? I think that story also would have publications interested. It's about, again, backing it up with data. And telling that specific story, because the more general it is, the more difficult it is for editors also to really visualize the kind of stories. So
Yes. So, do we have any other questions?
Safina, I think did she go leave?
I don't know. Let me check the chat. Mhm. Yes, I think she talked about something. Yeah, you can also just read the chat.
Yeah.
No, I am actually here only. I'm so sorry. It's so cold here. I am have to sit in the hammam and the baby is sleeping. So I was just trying to not to speak a lot. So I'm just saying that there are a lot of minor details which I as a journalist were not aware about, and especially at a point when I certainly am working around a story around cancer, and I just wanted to say like a big thank you, because there were small minor details that I was sort of trying to understand and I had overlooked before, and it now is like really really clear. So I just wanted to say thank you.
All right. You're welcome, Safina, and please feel free to reach out if you need
Yeah,
anything.
absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Do we have any other questions? Any insights, any experiences, any inhibitions, anything you would want to discuss?
I wanted to add one point,
Yeah.
since especially when we talk about women and we talk about cancer, we generally see, I mean, at least that's what I have seen in my sort of reporting till now, that men try to sort of overtake the conversation when you try to build that conversation with women who, in the family who is affected, and they brush a lot of things under the carpet, and we do not see or we do not understand that when men in a family go through such a disease, women are so sort of available for help, trying to do everything that could save them, but we do not see same behavior from men in the family, especially if she's a woman who doesn't hold any kind of
Yeah.
financial stability, assets, etc. Since you've been working around such patients and you have written a lot about it, I just wanted to understand from your perspective that how do you break that autonomy in the conversation.
I think just because we are women, it is much easier for women to talk to us, and we can also take them to a corner and talk to them personally, or just request the men to, leave the room and let us talk. So at least while talking to us, women usually tell about even this, that the fact that my husband is not even allowing me to talk. And that's very common, but there are ways that, we can, and I think it is also important to mention this in the story, that the family members are playing such a big dominant role in the whole discussion. So I think that also adds to the story, that the woman that we want to talk to is not able to talk to us privately. And the same is the problem when she goes to a doctor, right? There are 10 people sitting and everyone is prodding and everybody is impatient, and a woman is not able to open up. And this is happening all the time, not just with cancer. We know about the, abuse they face as pregnant women in hospitals. So this is sadly the reality, and it is sadly something that we have to expect, right? Rather than, really be shocked by, yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
Okay, if we do not have any further questions, then we can just wrap up the call. Thank you everyone for joining today's call. Thank you so much, Swagata, for sharing your insights, experiences. I mean, they're really invaluable as we move forward, like Safina was saying, and so many people must be already thinking about, writing about it. So yeah, everyone, please feel free to share any feedback or, reaching out to Swagata for any doubts. And yeah, thank you so much again. We look forward to our to our continued progress. Thank you so much.
So, sorry, Alia, just cutting you here. Will we get the presentation that she has? Because
Yeah,
I think
I'll
she had
just
a
share
lot
it
of
with
sources.
Alia, and
Yeah.
she can.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Safina, for asking that. Yeah, we will do that. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Swagata, again.
Okay, bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Subscribe for more content.